All righty. All righty. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. And good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. And we're here to do news unfiltered. So I am going to first of all say hi to Maponga. How are you?
Thank you, Bianca. Nice to have you on the line.
It's my buddy here who I've known for a long, long time. So today we're going to do unfiltered news. We're just going to look at news around the world and stuff that affects us. This is going to be, I'm going to give a disclaimer here. If you're weak at heart, you may want to toughen up, because whatever we say here is our thoughts, our opinions. But we do not filter anything. There's no gray area. It's either black or white, and truth is truth. All right, so let's start first. Where do we begin? First of all, let's start. Uganda celebrated their 58th independence, so that's a good thing, right? Good thing. It's been 58 years, so they did that October 9th, I believe. Yes, October 9th. So that was a good piece of news there. But let's start with one here. We are voting here, and people vote all the time.
So no. Before you go voting, I think we need to address African independence and African states and the fakeness of African democracy in the hands of colonial systems. So that you don't say you are celebrating 58 years of independence, yet in the midst of the 58 years of independence, there's not been any practical changes on the lives of the people on the ground. Why? Because the politicians that are running into the African terrain are not interested in changing the political, governance, fashion, academic, banking systems of those countries. You still remain as colonial states of the dominant culture. So even the 50 years of independence for me is 58 years of continued colonial system under the British rule.
So, okay, well, I do not blame the leaders. You know why? Because we keep voting them in and we do nothing about it. Okay, we complain about it, but we still bribe these same people. We still let them be corrupt. So whose fault is that?
If
we allow them, then we have no one to blame but ourselves. Because continually we cry about it. We say they're corrupt. Listen, the leaders I used to read about in school, they used to tell us we're future leaders of tomorrow. These people have been leaders. The textbook never changes. The textbooks change. The people are the same. The pictures are the same. The leaders are the same. We go to so who's to blame?
We need to understand again the toxic quality of education which the system has pushed to its people. That political leaders run around looking for votes, send a few t-shirts, a few caps, a few dukes,
and in my country, they dance a lot. Our politicians, they love to dance. That's all they do. Practically speaking.
And in all honesty, I said a statement that was very dangerous the other day when I said poor people have no choices. And someone says, but they have a choice. I'm saying, but they're gullible. They are soft targets, because you can get their votes without you telling them the truth of what they are voting themselves. You as an educated PhD, masters, whatever, you've been to Brussels, you've been to London, you've been to Washington and New York, you've done your research, you've got your finances in the background. Don't worry about my people. I'll handle my people. Don't worry. I will do the people, you do the money. By the time the guy is there doing his dance, doing his Kosa dance in the village, people, guys, I'm going to stand for you, I'm going to stand for you. That's the last time you're going to see that politician in the village when he's looking for your votes. Immediately he's in power, is there to
That's
maintain the colonial system. So I've stopped believing in African revolution, because the revolutionaries are there for cosmetic changes, not for fundamental constitutional changes. I thank you.
And for me, corruption is there. Corruption has been there in history, and corruption in North America, in America, in any country, even developed countries, there's corruption. But the thing about their corruption, it's smart corruption. I call it smart corruption. Why? Because at least they fix the roads. At least they have working systems. At least their schools are working. And then wherever they're siphoning the money to, at least we see something working. The health system works. There are things that work. So fine, let the leaders be corrupt, but at least have a functioning government, have a functioning, food supply, have, you understand? Be corrupt, yes. Corruption is there, but at least be a smart, corrupt person. That's all I'm saying.
I don't even want to pontificate that or glorify it for what it is worth, that we can say evil must be accepted because at least the concept of corruption, the last time I was working in governance structures, the corruption is the act itself. But within corruption, there's the corruptor and the corruptee. Okay? The corruptor is the one who has the money. The corruptee is the one who is going to receive the money on behalf of the uncivilized, the uneducated, the primitive, the common people. Pardon me, I'm using this language very loosely so. Because I intend, since you say it's unfiltered.
It's unfiltered. I'm going to say what's in my head.
Yeah, so when you talk about corruption, I know the Western world wants to talk about African leaders are corrupt. African what are corrupt. Okay, thank you very much. They are corrupt. Being corrupt is a pronoun or a noun of what you are doing. Corruption is actually the institution where this is happening. Corruptor is the one who has the money to pay. The corruptee is the recipient of the money. So you tell me in African politics, who has the money? And who is the corruptee? African governments, African leaders are corruptees. The corruptor is the banker. Cayman Islands, Mauritius, Virgin Islands, Swiss banks, the Zurich, the London banks. If you can walk up to all those banks and get the names of the African leaders who have put their monies in those banks.
Oh, it's millions. When they got that guy the other day.
Don't waste my time. Because we know that the external companies, external bankers, external governments are building their economies with stolen money from African people. It's not a secret. Zurich, Norway, England, to date, they cannot account for Mobutu Seseko's money. They cannot account for Mugabe's money. They cannot account for Nelson Mandela's money. They can't account for Chisano's money. They can't account for all even Kenyatta himself. They cannot account for Museveni's money. And these monies are being siphoned out of Africa through bilateral triple P agreements. And you are sitting in Zurich and you see, boom, in the account, 155 million has arrived. 265 million, 1.2 billion has arrived. And you come around and you write a small little article, African leaders are corrupt. I'll tell you, if African leaders are corrupt and you are truthful, just bring us the balance sheet of the banks that I have mentioned so far. I've given you 5 at least. If they are prepared to bring up the balance sheets of their governments or their banks and show to the African people, Idi Amini, how much did he send to you? Mobutu Sese Seko, can you just bring that money back to Congo? Because
they won't do it. They have a non-disclosure agreement. People have tried to get in there.
It's unfiltered. European governments have built their economies on the basis of stolen money from African states. They are the corruptees. They are the corruptors in some sense, because they eat both sides. They eat locally and they eat internationally. So the corruptors of the African politics is actually the West, because they are the bankers.
Yeah, and that's why they eliminated Gaddafi. Whoever thinks Gaddafi was bad, I don't. And that's why they eliminated him, because he wanted one system. He wanted Africa to be itself with one system and operate within its own bylaws, with its own banking, everything. He wanted it united, and people complained, and oh well, they saw it as a threat.
Point of correction, people did not complain. People did not complain. The interested parties, the vested interested parties who saw the danger of the African people coming together, backing their currency with genuine gold. And Gaddafi was talking of the African gold coin, which was going to back up our financial system. I have nothing to hide. The CIA has something to tell us. This is the only time when me and Obama, we cross our swords. The favorite Kenyan descendants, whose father, mother, whatever, ended up in America. The blood of Gaddafi is in the hands of a fellow black man by the name of... I thought you were going to help me.
Obama. Barack. You're calling him
Gaddafi died during the reign of Barack Obama. And if he is gentleman enough, sorry, something kicks in my spirit. If he is genuine enough, Barack Obama, with the amount of knowledge that he has of the CIA, investigation, security, and etc., you cannot tell me, Barack Obama, that a brother dies in Libya, killed by the American government, the CIA, together with the American National Army, and you don't know about it. So let's maybe just, since it's unfiltered, let's just remove the cotton wool and say one day when Baraka has become man enough, you'll come forward and tell us the truth. How did he kill Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? And what was there for him? What was the benefit for him? What was at stake as far as the American government is concerned? And what was his consent in agreeing to the butchering?
It goes back to history: conquer, divide, and rule. That's the only way they can do it, and that's why they and many war, like what you're saying, a lot of wars, they give those arms. A lot of ammunitions are given to the leaders from here, and then they turn around and they kind of, okay, now we are cracking down. But in that crackdown, that's just like a smoke shield a smoke screen that they give us, so that we feel that they're helping out, they're cracking down on. But they're the same people who are arming terrorist groups and stuff like that, because of the conquer, divide, and rule. There's no way they can see Africa as one. So until African leaders decide within themselves, or someone else stands up,
I want to punch a hole right there. Because it's not all African leaders who are African leaders. Just qualify that. Because some African leaders get into power on the backup funding of the Europeans, the Americans, the Chinese, in some certain cases, the Indians and the Arabs. So they're not African leaders. They are interested parties. So it is true, and I cannot say it better, that Gaddafi died in the hands of the South African government, because the South African government was the chairman of the African SADC, whatever space you want to call that, where actually the vote of South Africa for the extermination of Muammar Gaddafi did not happen in the sleep of the Africa Union, the SADC Union, the COMESA Union, and the Greater African Space. So African leaders actually, and I say this boldly, saw that African leaders in cahoots and cooperation with the CIA, KGB, M16 and M15 actually concocted and cooked the death of a brother.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay. Mr. Bruce Black, Pastor Black, welcome. How are you? He says, yeah, Gaddafi was a terrorist, and then he goes and says he was killed by U.S.-backed militants, and the CIA have not hidden its involvement in his death. He was a malcontent. He was a candor on the AU, the African Union.
No,
and he backed corrupt regimes in Africa. Okay.
But by the way, when it comes to public media space and conversation, freedom of expression and freedom of sharing information is good. If you say as American government that you notice that there's a problem in Africa, there's a leader in Africa who needs to be exterminated, and you go ahead and exterminate him, can I ask a question? As African leaders, if we notice that the American government or the European government or British government does not serve our interest, do we also have power? Do we also have the will? Do we also have the resources to exterminate an European American president on the basis that their interests and policies are not favoring Africa? So what America can do to Africa, the question is, can Africa also do the same to America? Because right now, it's not all of us in Africa who actually believe that either the American government with their fake democracy or the European Union with their fake democracy, that actually the interest of the African at heart. Do we have the auspices, the power, and the financial means, and also the ethical drive that we can execute our disgruntlement with either the West, the North, or the East? Right now, China is abusing us. Can we go and kill the Chinese government or the Korean government?
China is buying up countries piece by piece.
And war by war. By the way, piece by piece.
Yeah.
And war by war. Yes, I understand. Ralph is bringing a very important point of the Lockerbie and the French aeroplane that was dropped, 150-something people died. Can Africa talk about the 15 million people, 20 million people in slavery, and another couple of millions people that are lying on the bedrock of the Atlantic Ocean? Can we talk about Leopold II, the decapitation of the African people? Can we talk about the Hutus and the Tutsis? Can we honestly begin to, if you want to speak genocide and you want to speak about acts against humanity, can we use the same ruler? Yes, Ralph is right. Let's speak Lockerbie. 153 white people died in an aeroplane because Gaddafi shot the aeroplane. On the same wavelength, Ralph Black, can you address me on the slave trade? Can you address me on the war in Zimbabwe? Can you address me on the Mau Mau war? Can you address me on the Tanzanian war? Can you address me on the genocide in Namibia? Can you address me on the war in South Africa? Can you address me on the war in Somalia? Can you address me on the war in Nigeria? Can you address me on the war in Algeria? Can you address me in the war in the Republic? Can you address me about Guinea? Put all those people together. And you want to tell me, Ralph, that you want to start arguing about 153 white people who died in Libya, and you cannot account to me 15, 20, 30, 40 million people, black people, who have died in the hands of white people. Ralph, please take a seat, get a glass of cold water, And I'm on a different mode right now, and I don't want to start talking to you personally, but you must be fair. You must be fair to address justice as justice. Justice for a white man must also be justice for a black man.
It depends on what they value most. Let me tell you. Okay, so if we're going to equate, obviously in history, the black is valueless. Is the way the world works. Black is valueless. So 150 versus millions, it's where the value lies. The value lies in the 150, unfortunately. That's what it is.
And tell Ralph after the break that he cannot account for that. He does not have the resources to account for that. He does not have the political will to address that. He does not have the historical purpose and intent for carrying out that act. And no, I want to be very clear. He can
Bruce Black, you need to come here with your glass of water. I have my hibiscus water here. We can all drink cold water.
I want to be very frank. Ralph cannot account for that because he was not part of the committee that decides on the death of Africans. So he cannot account for that. Please remove him from the list of people who can account for the death in Namibia, in Congo, in Rwanda, in Zimbabwe, in Tanzania, in Kenya. Ralph, you cannot account for that. You can't account for that. Step back, and with all due respect, please.
It's his viewpoint from his lens. That's how he sees it from his lens. From your lens, you're pro-African completely, past all the way right. So from his lens, he still sees some faults in let's see here. What do you say? You're not white. You can't account. Does he have to be white to account for something? I don't think he's. You don't have to be white to speak on behalf. He doesn't have to be white to speak on account of someone else.
You said it's unfiltered. So I want to address Ralph that he must not try to protect the colonialists and their strategies of eliminating black leaders, eliminating Sankara, eliminating Gaddafi, and making Zimbabwe ungovernable, and pouncing on African governments, putting surrogate governments in African states because you want to democratize Africa. The question is, when you want to democratize Africa, what does Africa want vis-a-vis what you want as the West? So we must be very clear. That is one thing for the United Nations to say, we want this for Africa. But the question is, what does Africa want? If the Khoisan man right now in the Kalahari wants to put on his animal skin, wants to hunt his buffalo, and wants to live on his shack or in his small little thatched house, and every evening he wants to dance around the fire, and while the moon is in the sky, does he not have a right to be? This comes to self-determination. So you cannot tell me that the agenda of the Western and the European colony becomes the agenda of the African. So maybe let's not make this personal. Me and Ralph can take this. We're having a healthy debate, and I like healthy debates like this because we're all come from our own schools of thought. So it's good. It's just engaging of the mind. We can all cohabit in this space of meeting of the minds. It's not anything. It's just we're passionate about our opinions, which is good. We welcome all opinions, which is good. I am passionate of my own opinions, which people may not agree with, and you may never always agree with me. We may agree on some things, so it's a healthy debate. And let me read here. And welcome, by the way, everyone who's in here. If you would like to comment, and I'll come on, let's keep talking. Anything you want us to address as we keep going here. Miss Global Citizen, welcome again. Gaddafi did have the personal agenda of spreading Islam across Africa.
Therefore, he supplied arms to nations, Ghana, Rawlings, and Burkina Faso. Ghana, like Rawlings, was part of it, and Burkina Faso, resulting in toppled governments and a huge influx of unaccounted arms, AK-47s.
I want to take maybe a more philosophical reflection on that, deliberately so.
And of course, you can also, and this comment there that she made of the opportunity of, he had an understanding of how the world worked. Okay, you can address those.
Thank you very much, Miss Global Citizen. I want to raise one or two issues also. That as Africans, we need to understand that imported gods, imported religion from the middle North Africa, which is Islam, imported religions from Europe, imported religions from the West, have caused that division. And if the agenda of Muammar Gaddafi was Islamic, it is Islamic simply because that the thinking of the African leader is influenced by his religion. And his religion has an address. And if that address is not African, if it is Anglican, if it is Catholic, if it is Presbyterian, if it is Episcopal, if it is Islam, then you begin to see that when a leader comes into power, is how will their religious bias and understanding begin to overshadow the country or the politics of the country in which they are reigning. So you may find that Mugabe, for example, our Honorable Robert Mugabe, was a Catholic boy, a Catholic young boy. He was at the altar, grew up amongst the Catholics. And then he grows up and becomes a leader. Later on, the Catholic Church comes to claim their sonship from a man. It's only towards the last part of his life that he may have seemed like he started now to move away from the Catholic reign of control and power, when he started now to talk about toppling up regime, claiming up the land. Unfortunately, he had lost traction and old ages had caught up with him. But you understand that religion controls African politics. Look at the Boko Haram, look at ISIS, look at the wars in Somalia, look at Darfur, for example, look at Congo. Tell me which of those countries are not actually attached to some religious persuasion. So I'm not protecting Gaddafi in the essence that maybe he wanted to spread Islam across Africa. But does the religious bias become the epitome of political conversation for 1.4 billion people? It must be Jesus and Allah fighting. For crying out loud, give Jesus and Allah a ring. Let them fight their battle in the heavens. Why must the people suffer? Because Allah and God, Muhammad and Jesus are in disagreement. So I'm not protecting the esoteric discussions of ecclesiastical or spiritual conversation. But in essence, we must understand that some of the battles Africa is fighting are not African battles, but they are religious and spiritual battles which are being controlled from locus of control, which is outside of the African continent. So yes, Gaddafi was Islam, but the fact that he was Islam does not give Christianity, which is America, permission to kill an Islamic man who is African, because he is now going to promote Middle East over the European or the socialist or the capitalistic agenda.
I think, and our Bruce Black, anyone who wants to join who's asking, I've put in the link there. You can click on that link and you can join here. I put the link in there, so just click on it and then I'll add you on here. All right. And Miss Global Citizen says they're intertwined, they're encapsulated, on commenting on what you said. I think when it comes to religion, religion is a cop-out that they always use. Religion is an easy way to wiggle out of doing something, when you do something in the name of freeing a certain group of people on a religious premise. I think it's just a cop-out and a way to cover what you're doing, because a lot of people will not question when you do something based on religion. So for me, it's a cop-out when they address things on a religious premise. as opposed to
can I throw something also on your face, Bianca?
yes.
And the question is, if you say African leaders are corrupt, which church?
I said everybody is corrupt. It's just that the West are smart corrupt people. They're just smart corruption. I didn't say, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If African leaders are deemed as corrupt, what religion do they belong to? Because the religion controls ethics, morality, behavior. So if you say the South African government is corrupt and Ramaphosa goes to church every Sunday, wherever that church is, if you say the Zimbabwean government is corrupt and Emerson Mnangagwa, his majesty, not can be majesty, his excellency, goes to church every weekend. If you say Kenya is corrupt, and Kenyatta is sitting on the front bench of a church.
Even our previous leader, years back, one of our leaders, Moi, they actually used to televise, most Sundays, they used to televise him on TV attending church, like every Sunday. They would do it.
I follow my thought pattern. Because I'm saying, if the leader is corrupt, the leader is corrupt, and yet he claims to be religious. And every weekend, we are seeing Arab Moi with his knob carry in church, listening to his pastor, telling him how to behave. You must love your enemies. You must do good to one another. So religion, for me, becomes the central part that holds the humanity of humankind, the Ubuntu-ness of the African leader. And if that locus of control is contaminated, how do you think that the leader, the political leader, will behave? Because there's no political leader who will behave above his religious instructions. The jihad soldiers who go to kill because they're going to wake up in heaven with 7 virgins in their hands, 7 fresh girls that they can sleep with. Pardon me, is it possible, therefore, that Islam is a sexual religion that sells sex as a passage to the afterlife, and that young boys... No, wait for me.
Okay. All right, and Michael Melato is backstage here, itching to get in here.
Because belief...
I'll put him here.
Belief controls behavior. Belief controls behavior. As a person believes, so they behave. If you tell a person, there's nothing in this world that is nice, everything will be fine when Jesus comes again and we're in heaven, you are telling the software of that person, don't worry about anything, don't do nothing, because when Jesus comes back again, you are going to transit into the other space. So religion is dangerous. And I want us to put our finger on that pulse, that our politics, what they are not telling you is that our politicians are being controlled by their religious beliefs.
No, I beg to differ. Religion is not dangerous. You have to have a belief system or something that you believe in, a value system. So religious, I think what is dangerous is when somebody goes to the extreme. You can be extreme on many things. You can be extreme on drinking. You can be extreme on being a sanctified person. You can be it's the extremity. It's how far you take it. It's your interpretation and how far you take it. I do not think that I beg to differ with you that religion is dangerous. It's not. You cannot exist in a place where you have no morals, a value system, an ethical something.
But I'm putting it
in the absence of that, what will guide you? Okay, in the absence of religion or anything to guide you ethically and morally, what will stand in that place to guide you? You're existing in a vacant lot.
I want you to put it in context, Bianca.
Mm-hmm.
Religion is dangerous when it tells you, dictates to you who to kill, okay? Because there are some religions that say to you, if a person does not believe what you believe, they don't deserve to live. Religion becomes dangerous when it makes the local person relinquish their property, relinquish their land, because they're waiting for Jesus to come again. Religion becomes dangerous when it makes one race superior to the other. Religion becomes dangerous when it whitewashes Jesus and makes him look like a white man, and black people become subordinates. Religion becomes dangerous when the race that has God with them, Yahweh with them, have a permission to kill other nations who don't believe in their God, because you and your God have permission to override and take over and rule over those that don't have the same belief system with you. So I'm saying it from that context. I'm not saying it's dangerous in the sense that you don't need anything to believe in. I'm saying when what you believe in gives you advantage, gives you abuse, gives you terrorism over the other, then that religion for me is not worth talking about. Because any religion that does not recognize another human being as a human being, but as a sub-human being, that religion is dangerous. So I'm clear.
It's not the religion that's dangerous. It's the interpretation of that individual, it's the way the person has interpreted it. It's not the religion itself. It's the interpretation thereof. Those are two different things.
The religion keeps its mouth shut when its members execute the fundamental ethos of its theology, because it benefits from the extreme exercise of that religion.
Michael, help me here. Twinny Winnie says, come in sober, Bianca. Oh, I'm drunk on hibiscus water, and I can pass you some so that you can come to my school of thought. Yeah. I'm drunk on hibiscus water, my friend, at 11 at midday. So I can share some with you so you can come to my school of thought. Religion is not dangerous. It's the interpretation thereof of that religion. Our person interprets it. I can make water dangerous if I want to, by poisoning water. Water in itself is a clean thing. But if I tarnish the water, then it becomes dangerous thereof. I'm the one who's manipulated the existence of the water. I'm the one who's manipulated the existence of the water.
Therefore, water in the hands of Bianca is not safe.
Exactly. So it's the interpretation. It's not the water. There, you're agreeing with what I said, meaning place religion in the place of water. Religion is not dangerous. The tarnishment of the religion, the interpretation. You're just saying what I'm saying. Okay, Michael. All right, Michael.
In matters, can we say possibly they individually use a religion as a way of doing what they are intending to do under the name of religion? Because what come into my mind, based on the discussion, is what kind of religion would we say Jesus brought on planet Earth then?
He preached love. He preached love. That was the premise of it. Love and redemption. But the interpretation of people has gone into many tangents. It's the way people have interpreted it. That's the thing. He preached a clean, simple message. He preached the interpretation, the way people have put it forth. People have come up with their own rules.
Can I ask you a question, Bianca?
Yes.
How do you separate religion and intention? Because what we are seeing are the intentions of religion. What we are seeing are the interpretations of religion. What we are seeing is the iconography of religion. What we are seeing right now in Africa is colonialism managed by religion. The British government is the owner of the Anglican Church, and the British monarch goes to church under the Anglican Church. And under the auspices of Anglicanizing the world, the British government kills people in New Zealand, kills the Aborigines in Australia, kills the Africans in Zimbabwe, Malawi, Zambia, and South Africa, kills the people of America and the indigenous people, but still go to church every Sunday, and the Anglican bishop fumigates all of them with the incense and etc. So you cannot tell me in my sober mind that the Queen of London is not a Christian. She is a Christian, and her Christianity tells her to kill the Moors, kill the Zimbabweans, kill the Zulus, kill the Kikuyus. Kenya was used as a brothel by the British lords who came to Kenya to have brothels of prostituting themselves with Kikuyu women. I have a book in my back here, The British Gulag. If you read that book, you'll be puking for the next 3 weeks. And it's happening under religious supervision. And you come around and you want to tell me in a nice little language that religion is not poisonous. You need to take me back to school, and I need to ask for my school fees back from my teacher. Because what I have learned is that you cannot behave better than your theology.
Mr. Bruce Black is here. He feels like
I know he is
as in here, he's here with country living.
That he must come inside, and the trick has worked.
And he's here with country. He's here in the country. If some of you would like to, you're hungry, you can cross over to Country Living with Salad Master on YouTube on Bar W Farm and eat as we're talking. So I'll put the information there, and you can eat. All right, Mr. Black. All right, go.
Yeah, no, I'm listening to this conversation very intently. Joshua has a point about religion. As a standalone, it's not toxic. As an add-on, it has become toxic. We were religious before the white men arrived on our shores. Right? And our societies, with its ills, with its crinkles, with its warts, with its wrinkles, existed orderly. We fought over grazing rights. But until Shaka, there were no deaths. It was pageantry. Until the colonialists and the settlers came, and unable to outwit us in our primitiveness. You must remember, Shaka didn't go to a school. He was taught in indigenous beliefs, but could not be unwitted. They could not round him intellectually. They noticed the militancy of primitive religion, and they said, you know what, let's calm it down by selling them a version of the Western religion that pacifies. And unfortunately, since that, with all its good, Joshua and I were educated at a mission station. That man you see, Maponga, his brilliance is part indigenous, part European. But he has been able to digest the European teachings and uncover its inadequacies and layer on the richness of his culture. We were both trained by a mission station. However, they taught us in the mission station that to be rich was sinful. They sold us.
While you are saying that, Ralph, do you remember a lecturer by the name of Jack Kroll at Solusi saying these African ministers, they don't need to know Greek and Hebrew. Just teach them John 14, Revelation 14, and John chapter. And you look around and say, so you are saying that the African mind cannot comprehend theology. All we need is evangelism.
Josh and Bianca and the other guests that are watching, the greatest failure of the colonial system was to bring us education, their education system. Now we are able to use their symbols, their language, to advocate for our positions. So we must put religion in its rightful context as an add-on to the political structures. It's extremely dangerous. I've heard us talk about the Muslim, my good Muslim brothers, the faith of the Muslims. These are devout people. There is not a Christian I know of who's as devout as some of my Muslim friends. Very peaceful people. And yet, as an add-on to the political ideology of the Islamic world, the Muslim faith has become a danger. As an add-on, let it stand alone. And let's see how it functions. As an add-on, as an ingredient of our political constructs, religion, the Judeo-Christian religion, and even the Muslim faith or Buddhism or whatever religious construct, worldview you have, is dangerous if it is added on to a political motivation and agenda.
And Ralph, while you're on that, let me put context. We need also to visit this concept that religious people will always claim spiritual, ethnic superiority over those that don't believe what they believe. So, for example, you pick up the Hebraic faith, the Jewish faith, which tells you go into Palestine, kill the Philistines, kill the livestock, kill the animals, kill the women, the pregnant ones, kill the children, exterminate them. Why? Because you and God are in cooperation to dominate another culture and take over their land. Now, after you've worked on that theology in that context, what makes you think, therefore, that when Christians accept this faith, they also don't come with a superiority complex that says exterminate anything else that does not belong to you? What makes you think that Islam is not also running on a default that says if someone, that is what they call the Great Jihad, a holy war. If someone refuses Allah, refuses Muhammad as prophet, that person is a kafir. And the kafir does not deserve to live. So when an Islam man kills a man who does not believe in Allah, they are actually doing a holy service because they are removing from the face of the earth a person who does not believe in what they believe. And you can walk up to me and say religion is not dangerous. I will tell you that religion is dangerous when it is in the hands of those that don't understand the intentions of spirituality, and they pontificate extreme acts of injustice towards humanity to justify their religious platforms. Religion becomes dangerous when you don't give me business because I'm an Adventist and you are a Catholic. Religion is dangerous. When you come to my country as ISIS and you exterminate Christians because I refuse to become Christian or I refuse to become Muslim, religion is dangerous. When you take girls that are in a school, hundreds of them, you rape them and make them your wives, and you say that religion is dangerous. Because once religion is in your hands, it is subject, Ralph, it is subject to interpretation. That's why the European community right now can write Sabbath school lessons for Africans. They want to interpret how we must look. Blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. And they don't want to describe the word poverty. Are we poor because we don't have resources, or we are poor because we are cooperating with colonialism?
Well, I think we are saying the same thing. There's a book. I'm trying, as I sit here, I'm struggling to find the author's name, but the book is entitled Not in My Name. Not in My Name. And the author maps much of what we are discussing today, of how conquests have been undertaken in the name of God. That if God were to speak today, he'll say, not in my name. Not in my name.
That pushes me to the level when I've said, is it okay for an African to look for their God? Because this one that the white man has given to us does not know the African. He has a problem with African culture. He has a problem with African land. He has a problem with African economics. He has a problem with Africans actualizing themselves.
Yeah.
An African is only a good Christian when he is a subordinate, when he is complying with the white regulations.
Josh, I would ask the same question. Perhaps I'll make the statement: Africans should look for God and not seek to make God relevant by humanizing him. And this is what we see now in the modern age. In order for us to make God relevant to our experience, we seek to humanize him, and hence we then play God.
I will have fun with you, Ralph, on that one. Yeah. I have a 3-year-old kid, and I am 52 years old. We go to the shopping mall together, me and my 3-year-old girl. I come back home alone. Who lost the other? Did the girl lose the father, or the father
lose the girl?
The child. Now, if you can answer that question, then the next level of the question: does Africa need to look for God, or God needs to look for Africa?
Well, God has always been looking for us, but we have sought to make him relevant by creating other gods, small g, in us. And therefore we want to take from big God, the God, his justice, his mercy, and make it instruments of our largesse. Therefore,
and why must we look for religion to be human? Why can't we just treat each other with dignity and respect? You come around in the name of God, you take away my land, you take away my cattle, you rape my sister, you dominate over me, give me a gate pass, don't allow me to travel around the country, you manage me, and you say you believe in God. And the one whom you are dominating over must continuously say, God has the answers. Now, if you are a Christian as a dominator, why does your religion not tell you how to treat me like a human being?
And this is the point, Josh, that we have sought to make God relevant by humanizing him.
Maybe he's irrelevant to African plight. Maybe he's irrelevant to poverty.
No. Maybe God is
never there when the Ethiopian kids are dying of hunger and the Somali people are being killed. 25 million later, people in Congo, God still he is not relevant, because while people are being chopped off and being killed in the Atlantic Ocean, God is waiting for the Africans to find him.
No. God is waiting
he allows things to happen. He allows things to happen. It's not that he's not there.
No, by the way,
he's not there. He allows things to happen.
He only allows the European to kill the African. When the African wants to kill the European, then God does not allow. So no, I'm clear, Ralph. 1 minute.
All right. So when Africans are killing each other, who are you going to blame then in that situation?
Hold on a second.
The white man is not there. The white man is not there to blame in that situation, in that scenario.
When killing blacks, God is not there. When whites are killing blacks, God is not there. So when a black man decides to kill a white man, God must remain absent. He was absent on 2 occasions. He can appear on the 3rd occasion.
What is happening now in the play and counterplay of human dynamics, our living today, is for us to understand the contents of our heart. What Josh has just revealed is a bastardization of the values of justice as Yahweh desired. But because we've wanted it so much, he has stepped aside and seconded the motion. It's only when we come to the realization that our efforts have only amounted in blood and death and a body count will we seek him. And this is what Josh is asking for in a very provocative way. People misunderstand Maponga. Sorry, I'm in another vein. People misunderstand his provocativeness. He's provoking us to think. For a long time, I've asked myself a question: do Christians think? Are we critical thinkers? Are we thinkers? Because when confronted with the tough questions, is it 1 Peter 3:15? Be prepared to give an answer, a defense, an apologia, a defense for the hope that is within you. When we are asked questions to give that defense, we begin to flounder. Then we say, the one that's asking a question and forcing us to think is being radical. My belief, my understanding, where my heart rests, is that as Christians, black, white, blue, and yellow, look at what we have done to each other. Look at the violence man has meted against men. Let's count the bodies. From Leopold to Ian Smith to Pig Bota to Muammar Gaddafi to Saddam Hussein to Osama bin Laden to the United States establishment to the Queen and the Tsars. Look at the body count and ask yourself a question collectively in the body count. Is this what is intended for us as human beings? Nation dominating nation, people and tribe dominating other tribes? Is what's required of us? And we are fast getting to the point where we will admit as human beings that we have committed to the destruction of ourselves. We have become so intelligent, we have become imbeciles. We have taken so much medication that we are drunk, we are intoxicated. It's called stupefaction. We just plunder through life, drunk and intoxicated with our philosophies, with our medications, with our ideologies, and yet the body count continues to increase. Look at what Hitler did to our Jewish friends, 6 million of people in Auschwitz. This is what man has been able to do against man. But we cannot claim that we have done it in God's name and think that God is going to endorse us.
Can I preach a little bit?
Please.
Okay. Okay, wait a second. These two pastors of mine. All right. Lead the floor. I need to. Next time I'll have a commercial break where we have praise and worship commercial. Okay, go.
The title of the sermon is "I Miss God."
Yes.
I miss God, who in ancient times would kill the enemy and protect his own. I'm in Egypt. Put blood on the doorposts. I'll kill those that don't have blood on their doorposts. I miss God, who would open up the Red Sea and let his people walk through. And when the enemy walks in there, he will drown. I miss God, who would turn the bitter waters into sweet waters in the wilderness. I miss God, who when we are bitten by the snakes, we could look at the brazen snake and our wounds would be healed. I miss God, who would give us precepts and commandments, show us the direction on how to live moral lives. I miss God who would open up the Jordan River and allow us to walk on dry grounds, the land of the. I miss God whom we can walk around and toy around the system as Africans, protesting and saying we don't like this system and the walls would fall down. I miss God. Miss God who would stand up and open up the ground and swallow those that disobey and protect those that obey. I miss God. The one who would stand with justice and condemn injustice. I miss God.
Well,
who stood for truth and condemned wickedness and evil. I miss God.
Miss him.
I'm tired of this wimpy little blue-eyed Jesus.
Hey.
Who tells the black man to lie down on the path of being downtrodden, being abused, being raped, and being harassed, and wait for the kingdom and paradise that is hanging in this. I miss God.
I miss God. Yes, sir.
Come on, preacher. Don't get me started now. I miss God. Who would stand with the poor. And when Jesus comes into this world, Yeshua, he says, blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek, blessed. I miss God who would know the pain of his people. I don't like this God who tells the black man to endure, to be patient, to lie down, to wait, to endure. This little blue-eyed Jesus who teaches us to tolerate the white sins. I miss God. Hey, come on, someone hold me there. Someone hold the God who punishes the evil and stands with righteousness, with purity, with honesty, with integrity, with ethics, with morality. I miss God who stood with truth, not with liars. God who stood with justice, not with conniving, corrupted politicians. I miss God. And please, when you find him in the midst of your prayers, when you find him in the midst of your devotions, please tell him, I'm looking for him. I miss God. Man, God, don't get me worked up. Something is moving in my spirit right here. I miss God.
Well.
Hallelujah, church.
Yeah, no.
Amen, amen.
Yeah, no.
And Agassi says here, Bianca, the Elohim Mr. Maponga is talking about, walked with Alkebulanians, blacks, in righteousness until the Gentiles took that was good and polluted it with a replacement theo. And Miss Global Citizen says, is it possible that we're not as intelligent as we think, simply because in 2020, structured religion is still prominent in our societies? So what must we do is the question. Because you have a church as the black, based on the premise that we are calling with the white man Sabbath school lesson, which we follow, but I believe it's our interpretation. It's our own. It's up to us to interpret it to be relevant to us. That's what I say. Write your own books. And I think someone asked here, why do we portray Jesus as white or black? Don't you think it's dangerous for religion framing Jesus as white or black? First of all, the white Jesus, we only have ourselves to blame for that white Jesus. Someone needs to paint a black Jesus. It's just Warner Coleman painted him as white because he was the only person then who actually painted Jesus through his lens. So it's not, and then they took that picture and ran with it because no one at the time had attempted to paint Jesus. So it's up to us to paint. Why can't we paint? I know Maponga has painted what God looks like. Why don't you follow that painting? I mean, or a black artist, come up with what you think God looks like and start using it. But as we stand right now, we accept to use the pictures and graphics they've given us. What are we going to do? Like in my church, the Seventh-day Adventist church, happy. I'm not sure whether it's because of the climate. I'm going to say that, but the lesson is always written like years, like a year or two ahead. They do the research, but at least I'm happy seeing them have some Black imagery. Like there's some color in the visuals that they're using now. They're attempting.
Bianca,
They're attempting to use.
Let me just say this here. Over the years, the authorship of the Sabbath school lesson has been multiracial.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's printed and approved, perhaps, in the West, but not without the contribution of our theologians.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a middle ground. There's a moderation that we must strike, and I totally agree with the fact that we have attributed a European whiteness to God, which he himself may deny. And history tells us that his parents went to Africa to protect him. This Jesus of the Christian faith. But white dominance won't accept it was Africa, or it will make that part of Africa Europe. Simply because the Jesus that they preach and teach went to Africa, had it not been for Egypt to offer sanctuary by God's provision, his father, then where would their Jesus be? And so I think it's a sober realization here that even though Moses wrote 600 plus laws, Jesus distilled them into two. Love God, love your neighbors. Horizontal, vertical. It says in the good book, how do men know that you are his disciples? Is if you love one another, not dominate each other, the next, not conquer the one, not occupy their land, not exterminate them by viruses, not push them out into the seas and give them and place them on reserves and in tribal trust lands. But if you love one another, that's how men know that you are his disciples. And what we are questioning this morning today here is the absence of a respect on the horizontal level is an indicator that we don't have a vertical connection.
What shatters me, Ralph?
There's no moral soil.
What shatters me, Ralph, on that narrative is that the colonizer has bishops, and pastors, and archbishops who walk with water and they sprinkle it over the guns. They have stickers on the bombs in Hiroshima that have God on them. It is that the entire American dominance, the entire European agenda on the African people, the genocides that have seen close to 150 million Africans. I'm talking about Africa only. I will not address America. I will not address the Pacific. I will not address the islands. All these murders and genocides and killings in human behavior is carried out in the name of God. This European God, who is totally insensitive to African problems. I need a God. Gainyame, 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 Nyamkoponi. who will define himself to the African problems as their God. I need this God who can stand with the oppressed. Ganyame, who, when one child is dying of starvation in Somalia, this God will stand next to that dying child and say, "You are my son." I need this God who can take the British monarch to the ICC for the mass murder of people, extermination of cultures, extermination of people, extermination of entire civilizations in the name of God. They're doing this for God. Let's not mix it up. Colonization has a religious agenda. When Islam comes to Africa, it's not coming to build roads. It's not coming to build hospitals. It's not coming to build roads. It's not coming to protect the vegetation in the natural habitat. I've said this 1,000 times. I'll say it again. If the bushman wants his springbok skin on his back and dance around a fire in the night with a moon above his head, and he says, "This is my life. This is what I want to be." Because when I go to the forest and I pull off my hair from my head, painful as it is, I pull off my head and I put it on the ground and I say, "Please, I need food for my children." And 100 meters from where he is, there's a springbok that is standing. And by the way, the bushman, before he shoots that animal, he looks up to the heavens and says, "Thank you." And he shoots his poisonous arrow to the springbok. The springbok faints. And he gets to the animal before it dies. The bushman puts his hands on the animal and he says, "I'm not killing you for fun or for pleasure. I'm killing you for food." Can you tell me that when you kill 25 million people, what are you telling your God? When you're destroying the forests of Congo and destroying the forests of Ghana, what are you telling your God? Because it is your God who gives you permission to do what you are going to do. When I say I miss God, I hope I'm speaking in a modern language, but echoing an ancient tradition of the sanctity of life, not over trees, not you putting cyanide into the rivers because you want to get some gold so that you can build an economy of Britain. Not cutting trees because you want to make furniture for your house in China and in Malaysia. I'm looking for that locus of control. Pardon me for the extensive European language. I'm looking for that apex from which you draw your intentions, which affect not only the black man who is sitting on a gold mine and a diamond mine that you want to dig. But when you are digging that gold and you are destroying everything that is around that person, what is your God saying? I want to recommend, it might sound unpopular, that politics is governed by religious affiliation. You will have missed me 1,000 miles if you miss this one point. Politics is religion.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. So now, before I do this quick thing here, there's a comment here. A book. I think Pastor Black, you talked about a book. So Miss Global Citizen said that she has a book to counter the one that you read. There, by that book right there. So you may want to look into that book as well. I'm going to look. I looked here and saw
Books,
that
books,
PDF.
yeah, books don't counter each other. Books don't counter each other. They present worldviews that are intended for us to consume and digest. We don't chew the cud. Read the books and chew the cud. I live in the country, Bianca, Maponga.
Yes.
I live on a farm. And I enjoy watching the cattle and the sheep lie down at the end of the day and chew the cud. They regurgitate all that they have consumed throughout the day and now begin to crush it for the nutrition, which now contributes to their well-being. Part of our challenge, whether in the West or in Africa, is let's read and let's chew the cud. Maponga raised something very poignant. What is your God telling you when you plunder? He referenced the practices of our cousins in the desert, of how they give thanks when hunting, and they show a sacredness not only of human life, but of life that we, by a creative act and declaration, have been given dominion over. We practice conservatism at the base of Africa. They are talking about conservation now in Western terms. Our great-grandfather, our ancestors were conservationists at heart. That was their existence. Don't kill that which you do not eat. Do not kill for fun or for sport. These are values that have been bastardized by Western political, religious ideologies. You don't dig big holes in the ground simply to accumulate immeasurable wealth. We dug sufficient gold to build our temples, but left the rest there. We killed animals for food and left the rest there. We cut down trees for homes, but we didn't build 25-room mansions. We built homes with sufficient space to house the people we had, and we left the rest there. We were able to live in nature and exercise our stewardship of nature until ideologies came, and now they began to build wealth that is so immeasurable that it has become immoral. Greed is insatiable. The acquisition of material things has consumed us. So the Western world is built on the exploitation of somebody else's environment, leaving them poor and marginalized. How do the Chinese dig holes in Africa and we still remain poor? They become a world power. How? Joshua, how is it that in Nigeria, people are killed recovering fuel from a leaking pipe when thousands of miles away, where there is no resources, neighborhoods are built with big cars running and everybody's happy? How? How can it be that at the source of the wealth, there is poverty, and at the other end of the wealth, where the wealth goes, there is life. How?
It goes back to defining the word humankind. Two words are compounded there: humanness and kindness. Being humankind is not a fragmentation or classification of being, but expression of being. When he or she who calls himself or herself a human being does not act in being humankind, being kind, therefore, speaks to the way you treat, the way you handle, the way you behave over someone, over something, animate or inanimate. Human, quote unquote, inhuman. And you look at a bird and you say, I will be kind to the bird. Looking at the grass and say, I will be kind to the grass. You looking at nature and say, I'll be kind to the animal. The story you are raising now, Ralph, makes me emotional because Khoisan kills a springbok, takes the animal home for food, takes the skin to cover himself. That is barbaric. That is uncivilized. A European comes here with an AK-47 and a rifle. They go to the bush. They kill 150 animals. And they chop off their heads of these animals, carry them as trophies to put in their libraries, in their private homes. They don't even eat the food. They don't even eat the meat. All they want are trophies of conquests. Right now, as I speak to you, in China, for you to be called wealthy in China, it is measured by the number of rhino horns that you have in your homestead. Over and above the aphrodisiac, where they powder some of that stuff and drink it to enhance their sexual lives. Wealth in China is measured in rhino horns.
Yep.
Are you being kind to animals? And the kindness catapults itself when the people who are the custodians of this resource that defines your manhood and your level of wealth are not deemed as people, but they are being deemed as obstacles to your definition of wealth. Question: are Europeans humankind? Question: are the Chinese humankind? Question: are the politicians humankind? Please underline the word kind after human, because when you lose the kindness, that is the do, umuntu, ubuntu, When you have lost the two, then you say akuna muntu, which means there's no person here. Lack of the two means your insensitivity to nature, insensitivity to fellow beings who become an obstacle to your definition of being. Because if your beingness, pardon the language, if your beingness is built on destruction of nature, accumulation of horns, of animals, collection of heads of lions, of buffaloes, and springboks, and that defines your level of self-actualization within a community that has deemed these things as important and valuables to your presence on earth. Can we still call you a human being, a humankind, when you are cruel to nature, cruel to animals, finally, cruel to fellow human beings? Takes us to a philosophical conversation. Are the definitions of humankind a lateral understanding amongst the blacks, the whites, the yellow, and the blue? Because when we lose being kind, when we lose that, then the black man, the African, must exterminate those that are not humankind with the same behavior,
Veracity and belief.
they have shown to nature. The same behavior they've shown to vegetation. Worse, the same nature they have demonstrated on fellow humankind. Who sleeps at night in Germany and in Brussels and in Belgium with a room full of skulls of human beings that you killed, and you force the wife and the children, give them a knife to scrape off the flesh from the head of your own father, so that the German man can take a clean skull to his palace in Belgium, in Brussels, Stockholm, and in London. As we talk right now, there are supposed to be human beings, humankind, who are drinking wine from the skulls of the human beings that killed. And you stand up in front of me right now and tell me that God in heaven understands our problems as Africans. He loves us and he cares for us. He is patient with us. Why is the patience of this white God only measured on the tolerance of the abused, not on the justice of the colonial system? Why must education be extended to the abused and never intended for the abuser? And by the way, religion manages the conscience of the abused so that they must not retaliate, they must not revenge, because all revenge belongs to God. Do nothing as black people. It's all in the hands of God. Now, is this God with us? who are being exterminated, and he is not with those who are exterminating us. When we revenge, barbaric. When they express it, it is God's will. You see, this is where many of my Christian friends will pull off their hair and go mad because they don't want to confront that which controls the conscience of the African, Arkebulam, Cushites, the Hamites, the Ethiopians, and the greater Bantu nations who are being taught love, patience, endurance. Why? Because God understands. Help me, Pastor Black. Why must God understand the black plight when he glorifies the colonial conquests?
Yeah, okay. So I think the point of inflection is, and should start at this point. Which African nation on the continent now is under colonial rule? Number
You
one.
want me to answer that? Because I might forget.
Which one? Aren't we still all under colonial rule in some form or fashion?
Thank you, Bianca.
I want to go.
We still are. Look at Kenya. Kenya has sold its soul to the Chinese.
Hold on. Yeah. I'm making a point here.
Okay.
While there is a case to be made against the West, the Europes, for the colonial and imperialist agenda that they imposed on us, I think South Africa may be the youngest in terms of independence amongst the African nations. And yet the abuse has continued. And in certain cases, it's abuse on steroids. It's abuse that far exceeds that imposed by the Western nations. And when it's convenient, our African leaders point to colonial rule while they plunder, while they steal, while they rape, while they murder, while they kidnap. They will point to colonial rule. And Africans have become gullible because we accept their explanation and do not hold our current African leadership to account. Bianca, you say Kenya is sold to the Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Who is governing Kenya? The white man?
Kenyan. No, Kenyan.
So who must be held to account?
Can I?
That's what I'm.
Wait, Joshua. Wait, Joshua. Wait. You wait.
The Kenyans must be held accountable for it.
We as Africans, let's go to the roots.
The root cause.
We have known what the root cause is: colonialism. But when we have taken over, we've not changed it.
You want
now
to know why?
Judges wear white wigs.
You know why? Right?
Judges, wait, Josh. Black judges wear white wigs. And the robes that were donned by the white judges who sentenced to death liberation fighters for acts of subversion. The laws, Joshua, that were in place during Ian Smith's day have not been reformed. We still have those laws in place. Now the victim and the perpetrator are the same color.
Stop right there, Ralph. Stop right there. Now me and you are on the same page. Finally, after years arguing, I'm glad now the chickens are coming home to roost. Thank you very much, Ralph. I can't say it better than that. When you take a black child and you send them through a system of education, when they get into power, they become the beneficiaries of the same system. I will not protect any African leader who now has the instruments of power in their hands: the army, the police, and the jurisdiction. And all these systems are not African systems, but they were instituted by the colonial system. And then you had a white man put his hand on the shoulder of a black man and said, now you are in power. And the fact that they're in power, they neither have the will, they neither have the ethics, they neither have the education, they neither even have the ethics to understand, to appreciate, even protect the people they are meant to govern. Point of reference, then an African president who was voted by 90% of the population carries guns and soldiers and police. When he goes to the village, that elected him into power to protect the leader from the people that voted him into power. That should say a mouthful. All African presidents have a motorcade of not less than 30 to 40, in some certain cases, 150 cars with motorbikes
and they block the whole road for hours. And
you asking me, Ralph, a question, why?
Mhm.
I think the answer is in your question. To say these have never been our leaders. They are here as surrogate governments who are here to perpetuate, manage the colonial system. All African presidents, please raise your hands. If you don't have an account in Mauritius, you don't have an account in Cayman Islands, you don't have an account in the Zurich, you don't have an account in America, all that money you've accumulated for yourself is from the poor people. And yet you ask me, Ralph, the business transactions, bilateral agreements, infrastructure development projects, the 5, 10, 15% of those budgets that are not directly linked to your own account. Tell me, Ralph, are African presidents not there to protect the investments of the multinational companies and foreign companies that are running business in Africa? Tell me, Ralph, why would the Ghanaian government give access to the Chinese government to vandalize the tropical forests in Ghana, in Congo? If you know that in that residence, there are 15, 20, 30, 50,000 people who are in habitat with nature. But in your government policy, you would vote and fly to China and sign a bilateral agreement giving access to the vandalism of that society. You want to ask me a question? Who is running Africa? I'll tell you on your face, Ralph, we don't have leadership in Africa, except the leadership that flies to France, flies to London, flies to Beijing, flies to New York, and the white man looks at the leader in the eye, and the white man says, I have gold claims in area so and so. Can you guarantee me that when you get into power, I can continue with my project? The man says, yes. What is in it for me? We'll buy you a villa in Coventry. We'll buy you a villa in Manhattan. We'll buy you a villa in Lisbon and in Atlas. So when you talk about African leadership, I want you to be very clear. Are you talking about authentic African leadership, voted by the people with the passion, the love of the people? Or you are talking about an African leader who is a custodian of the European investment, Chinese investment, American investment? Why is Congo still at war? Fly over Congo. Boeing 707 have runways in the jungles of Congo with no windows on those Boeing 707s. Simply open up military airplanes that park in Congo. Open up the boot, load the coal train so that we can have access to our iPhones. Load the gold, load the cobalt, load the platinum, load the diamonds. Zoop, out of Congo they move out. No passports, no visa, no immigration, no export license. Out into Beijing, out into Brussels, out into New York City. And you ask me that do we have African leaders? Who is running African governments? I want to ask you the same question. Where are these airplanes going? Last question for you, Mr. Black. Show me one factory in Africa that produces the sophisticated guns that are found in Congo as we speak right now. Show me one African industry that is producing the bombs that are in Somalia. Show me, Black. Show me one factory that is producing ammunition.
No, Josh, you've given an apt synopsis of the African condition.
Mm-hmm.
I've had occasion to become familiar with what is not seen in public, and it's horrible. It's horrible. Our African leaders are nothing but an extension of the colonial regime. There's not an election in Africa of any person who does not receive the acquiescence and consent of Western governments.
Mm-hmm.
When you see an African leader ascend to the presidency or leadership in Africa, it is key that certain capitals endorse them and accept them as governable. In fact, the matrix in the West is we want to know these leaders to see if we can work with them. They spend billions and billions of dollars profiling our leaders. Uhuru Kenyatta has been profiled. Emerson Mnangagwa has been profiled. Paul Kagame has been profiled. Museveni profiled. Magufuli in Tanzania profiled. There's not a single one of them that the Western powers has not profiled and has determined their vulnerabilities and have fed on those vulnerabilities and know their weaknesses. And so, yes, there's not a single African leader that holds all his holdings on the African continent. They're in Brussels and Guernsey and in Switzerland. Sooner or later, they'll be in Russia and Mauritius. African wealth and our leaders are being paid and they're hoarding their riches in foreign countries. How is it possible that heads of state have villas in foreign countries when their own countries have space for villas? Why are African leadership building houses in friendly countries to flee to? Why do you have to flee to them if you have been governing justly? But the African people, those that populate the big churches on the African continent, there's some countries where there are more churches than there are schools. In one African country whose name I will not mention, the industrial area, Joshua, those big factories that used to produce powdered milk, those factories that used to produce Vaseline, those factories that used to produce soap, sunlight soap, have now turned into churches.
And in those churches, they are praying for employment.
They are praying for employment, one, and the politicians are there being prayed for and being adorned by the prophets as those that are selected to lead. Meanwhile, 99% of that congregation is living on less than $1 a day. It's the celebrity politician who is plundering them and a conduit for exploitation via the Chinese and the Russian and the Libyans and whoever you want to talk about. He is the man getting the money. And we in Africa constantly say it's the white man. No, let's remove these people.
Yes, and how do we remove them? And I hate, and the people, yes, a lot of us have traveled outside, and I hate that word diaspora, and I don't know why people use it anyway, because I hate that word, but let's use it because that's what they know. The people who are in
Bianca, let me be blunt with you. Let me be blunt with you.
Mm-hmm.
The diaspora have become complicit in the crimes of
yes, that's where I was coming to. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because Joshua,
we
gather here in the United States at church on a Saturday in the parking lots under trees, and we discuss the politics of our home country. We here are taking sides. We are choosing amongst thieves back home.
I'll even go further to say that the government funds some of these diaspora, whatever clubs they call them. They get funded by them to push forward the message of these corrupt governments. So, and you're supposed to think that when you come here and you learn about democracy or you step outside, you're supposed to have a lens of helping. But
Bianca, democracy is a fallacy. Okay, I remember back in the early 2000s, I was with some friends of mine, and I told them that this concept of democracy and open societies is a charade. Those brethren almost had me for lunch. And I said to them, let's take a look at the United States, for example. The president of the United States, we are going to the election. The president of the United States here is not Joshua. Hear this well, my brother. He will be selected. He will be selected by what they call the Electoral College, which is a handful of states.
Yeah, it's not the voice. People think it's the voice of the general public.
And it is possible that the man who occupies the seat of power here in the United States does not have the consent of the entire population to govern. Joshua, the West told us that our judiciary must not be politicized. But here their Supreme Court is politicized. They are fighting over whether a liberal Democrat or a conservative Republican makes appointments of conservatives or liberals to the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land. Furthermore, they told us that our police forces must not be politicized. But here in America, in this great democratic enterprise and experiment, the county sheriff is elected by the residents. A judge is elected by the residents. He runs that election on a party ticket. So down from county level to federal level. We have a politicized judiciary. We have a politicized military police force. And yet in Africa, they condemn the judiciary. If the judiciary make political judgments, they condemn the police when the police get involved on the part of a political party. But it's here.
Two comments I have for you.
Okay, can I, before you comment, because we're talking about democracy and I know you're going to touch on something, I wanted to just play this voting ad because we always look to the West. We always look to the West to point us or to give us a direction. And if they can come up with something like this and show, this is a whole country that premises themselves on morals and sold us the morality clause, right? I'm going to play what this is, what they think when they're trying to tell their people to vote. This is how they figure you should go vote. So I'm just going to play just a little thing, then you guys can talk about it. Just 1 second here, and then, okay. Yeah.
I'm naked.
I'm completely butt-ass naked.
I'm naked.
I'm like naked.
There isn't a man behind me. These are my hands.
Why you want me to be naked?
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ruffalo, put your clothes on.
To be honest, I wish I could cover my hands with my boobs, but here we are.
I'm here to talk to you about voting. Did you know that ballots could be naked?
And if you don't do exactly what I tell you, your ballot could get thrown out.
This is my ballot. Just got it.
First of all, when your ballot comes, you're supposed to read the instructions.
Read and follow the instructions that come with your ballot.
If they say to use a black pen, use a black pen.
I know that's like literally the least sexy thing a completely naked person could say, but
I have crumb like can of Pepsi. Is problem?
Number 2.
In some states like Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
There are 2 envelopes you have to stuff your ballot in. Otherwise, it's called a naked ballot.
Naked ballots. And you don't want to have one of those.
Number 3, mail your ballot in as soon as you can.
Don't sit on them. Get those things out ASAP.
Like now.
Do it!
Get it in as soon as you can.
I gotta get my ballot to the motherfucking post office. Let's go.
Please vote.
Take your clothes off and vote.
Vote, vote, vote. Everyone's voice matters in this election.
Please vote.
America needs you.
And there, my friends, is how morally degenerate our lovely country we live in. There we've arrived.
I don't think it's morally degenerate. Bianca,
and they sell morality to us. No. I'm a liberal.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, hold on. I was at church yesterday and I preached. I don't know if you listened to the sermon. But this is what I said, Joshua. I said that the leadership of this country is a reflection of the hearts of the people. Those naked individuals have displayed to us the level to which they are to go, and from amongst them, somebody will emerge a leader. But this is logical. It's a logical end. I can guarantee you that in 2024 and in 2028, instead of seeing the upper half that is naked, that is taunting, they will just stand naked and tell us to vote. You see, part of the problem that Joshua and I have been discussing here, and even though I came to this program to talk about Gaddafi, and you guys sidetracked me, but it's okay. It's okay. Part of the issue here is that Christianity has now taken, Christianity is in the dock, Joshua. because we have endorsed leadership that is contrary to the so-called Christian values. And it has been all a lie. Conservative values, liberal values, this dawning of religion in political garb has been all a lie. And it has been exposed as a lie. And sometimes we ask, why does God sit silently by? I believe he sits silently by so that we might see the condition of our hearts. Why does it take naked people to encourage us to vote? For all along, the evangelical Christian world has been saying, hey, you must be married to one wife, Joshua. But yet they vote a man who's had 3 wives and they vote him into power.
Or you have your governor who's caught in a situation and he comes out and says, "Oh, I'm bisexual." Now we forgot about the immorality and now we must feel sorry for him and accept him because now and feel bad now.
Politicians, listen, Bianca, they say that politicians lie. And therefore we must vote them out, but they vote bigger liars into office every year. They vote a bigger liar by increments back into office.
Can I pass my 2 comments?
Yes,
please.
Please.
Number 1, we need to appreciate or understand the fact that the management of the African project is not a political management. It's an economic management. The previous generation, wars were being fought on guns and bullets. Our generation, the wars are being fought on economic viability. The African countries, all of them put together, have never received an invitation to supervise the American elections or pass a comment whether these elections are legit or pass a statement whether the governments that are coming on into America are friendly towards the African agenda. What Americans do belongs to Americans. What Europeans do belongs to Europeans. But what Africans do, we need an envoy from the States. We need an envoy from Europe. We need an envoy from the East to come and supervise that whoever is getting into power will protect the interests of the investments that have come for the pre-campaign. So it is maybe true, I beg to be corrected, that the first 5 years of every African politician in power, the first 5 years, you must be paying the debt of those that put you into power. Then the next 5 years, you pay yourself. There's a book that I read about it in Nairobi entitled Our Time to Eat. The basis of that book says colonialism is over, and we as the people who fought for the colonization and fought against colonization, it's now our time also to begin to eat. And the eating is not a community eating. The eating is a personal eating, where the person in power and his friends sit around the country and consider a country as a national family business. So I saw a clip the other day from Uganda, where the president of Uganda was saying, Ugandans, go to work. Don't complain about what the government is doing. That video is on circulation. This Museveni, I am working for my family. I'm working for my own welfare. You also must start working for your own selves. Stop being lazy and etc. So it's quite a lengthy, and I watched this video and my heart broke into pieces. Why? Because African leadership does not have the interest of the community at heart. So here's my recommendation. If the American government does not invite the Africans to observe, to watch, to question what they are doing with their democracy, why must Africans care what the Europeans think about our democracy? But now we are grown up and we know that African democracy is a surrogate child, is a pimp, sort of the language. Because African politics has become a brothel. African politics.
We were pimped out. We are still being pimped out. with no, literally.
African politics is a brothel of colonial masters. And the African sacredness is being sold to the highest bidder. How do we trust a pimp with the wealth and the health of the prostitute?
Interesting. I'm not sure how, but we will continue to explore that as I hear an echo from somewhere. I hope it's not me. These are conversations we have to have, which are very hard to, these dialogues and talking. But the thing is, as this global citizen is saying here, the thing that I fear the most is the Africans can be trusted to govern themselves. Can they be good stewards? If we're left on our own, will we be good stewards, is the question.
The African is at the mercy of the bourgeoisie, the educated African who went to study in New York with a degree from Yorkshire. He's got a degree from Oxford University, and they come back into the African continent as the leaders. And when whoever the chancellor puts the degree over their shoulder, and they send them back to Africa. These are not Africans. These are what I want to call Afropians, who are brown on the outside, white on the inside. To say the least, the European and American governments must never dare you say it again, that these African presidents are this and that and that. Tell them Maponga J said, shut up. Shut up.
Marsha Jones Mitchell, why is she on this panel? Joshua needs no accompaniment. Silly laughter and dumb points from the others, especially the young lady. Oh, well, Marsha, you know, YouTube and Facebook are a free platform. You don't need to pay money. You can actually start your own show, or if you're brave enough, click the link. And it's right there above those comments, and I can put it down again. Click the link and come tell us how we should run this. How about that?
Okay. No, sometimes, remember, we work in the media space. Let's manage. Yeah, let's manage the space. Don't worry. We deal with everybody else. And in that context, therefore, of us understanding the software that governs the African leader, it must put us in the know, as Ralph was saying, that all these leaders are profiled. They are prepared. They are pepped up. I mean, I look at South Africa, the Honorable Ramaphosa, His Excellency, and you look around and say, how many years did it take Stellenbosch, which is the South African white institution, to prepare a leader into power, so that by the time he's in power, he does not destabilize the status quo. He does not destabilize the investments, but must come into power to maintain that worldling the political control, economic control, and etc. So you don't tell me on any day, even in my sleep, Africans can govern themselves. Ask me how. By making African presidents answerable to the people. That, for the past 60 years, has proved that under the democratic system, where a president is answerable to the West, is answerable to the East, is answerable to the funders, the kings and the common people are totally excluded from the bilateral agreements. All we hear is that the president has flown to France. When he lands back, the French flag on the left, African flag on the right, we have signed a bilateral agreement. We've raised so much money. We've raised so much money. But those agreements, in terms of their finer print, the implication of those loans under IMF, under World Bank, which are going to be paid by you, Bianca, the younger generation. Kenya could have signed 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 billion worth of contracts to the Chinese government. God bless his soul, Kenyatta will not be here another 50 years from now, if not 100 years from now. But the debts that he has created are remaining on you, even if you are in diaspora. Your mother, your grandmother, your cousins, your nieces, and your nephew who are on the ground, Mombasa Beach, the Serengeti, the resources of Kenya, the resources of Mount Kenya, the coffee in Kenya, and etc. The land itself, the ground has been sold. By the time your generation starts, you're not starting at a plus. You're starting off at a deficit. Firstly, of paying the debts that are created by the present governments. Question number 2, do you have resources? Do you have manpower? Do you have financial resources to pay back those debts before you can begin to do a civilization around your own country? Answer, you don't have none of the above. So when your generation gets into power and America looks at you and says, you're owing us 3 billion. China looks at you, you're owing us 15 billion. Europe looks at you, you're owing us 22 billion. Consolidate that for 50 billion. Before you can start your infrastructure development strategy of paying your own ministers in government, you have to create another debt to pay the debts. This is the plight of Africa, where our leaders have taken up a begging basket of running on donor money instead of converting our resources. I want to challenge Kenya. I want to challenge Nigeria. I want to challenge Central Africa. I want to challenge Rwanda. I want to challenge Central Africa. And all those African countries that are producing cocoa, just cocoa. 1 minute, let's pick one resource, cocoa, which is actually the one that makes coffee and chocolates. And by the way, Europe is addicted to coffee. So take advice from a fool. How about those 4 countries put 1 billion rand, $1 billion each to build the first factory in Africa to process cocoa and stop selling cocoa as raw material, but start producing chocolates and coffee. Look at the value chain of job creation. Look at the value chain of manufacturing. Look at the value chain of price fixing, where for the first time when it comes to cocoa, Africa can determine the price of cocoa. We determine that price. Why? Because Apple right now can determine the price of a cell phone, an iPhone, with the coal train picked up in Congo, technology picked up in the computer junkyard of Washington, D.C., the Silicon Valley, and pick up the workforce of Samsung in the East, and come up and say, for you to have an iPhone 10, an iPhone 8 will cost you 18,000 rands, for example, which is close to about 1,500 US dollars for me to hold this phone in my hand. We cannot determine the price of a cell phone because the manufacturing of the cell phone, though the material belongs to us, we don't have the power to price it. Egyptian cotton, the diamonds that are being sold right now at Tiffany's in London, Piccadilly Circus, diamonds being sold in Brussels, in Beijing, in Arwep. Oh, my husband, my boyfriend bought me a ring from the Tiffany's. And those diamonds are being dug up in Africa, in Congo, and in Botswana at a cheap value of a couple of thousands and a couple of hundreds. In some certain cases, these diamond seekers are shooting ostriches in the bushes of the Kalahari because it has been known, and the Bushmen have known this for the longest time, that inside the stomach of an ostrich, there are diamonds, because while these birds are picking up seeds on the ground, they also swallow diamonds. So they come here and they hunt these birds down, collect the diamonds from the stomachs of these birds, collect the diamonds from the great kimberlites here in South Africa, polish those diamonds, sell them from Arwep and Tiffany's. Are you telling me that to date African presidents and African leaders cannot come together? This is Congo, Botswana, and South Africa, and Zimbabwe, and Sierra Leone, and have a common space where we can determine the value of our own diamonds and not only sell them as raw materials to the Western world, but beneficiate these diamonds into finished products. How much, how many jobs can we create? I don't have time to talk about cars that are coming from China, coming from Japan. And Japan does not have a single iron ore mine in their country. This is the iron and the manganese from South Africa, from Zimbabwe, the copper from Zambia. Are you telling me that our African leaders to date don't have the software in their heads? You have your country's budget. Why can't you just take a little bit of that budget and beneficiate the platinum in South Africa, and begin to process it into products so that we stop selling raw materials to the external community, but convert these raw materials into factories and industries that can benefit the local people? Are you telling me that all 54 African presidents to date, they don't know the value of the raw materials that we have that can be converted into industries so that we can deal with unemployment, deal with poverty, deal with food? And for crying out loud, Bianca, we don't need a penny of donor money. What they've stolen is enough. All we can do is, okay. We will beneficiate our minerals, our agricultural products, our resources. Will beneficiate them. Instead of selling iron ore to China, we are simply going to be making chases, for example, just the chase for the car. We understand we don't have the technology and the engines to put a car on top of it. but for the fact that we're actually producing the iron ore and making a chase of a car is as simple as smelting the iron, pouring it into some beams, literally pouring the iron into some beams. Boom! There you have the chase of the car. And for the first time, Africa can be exporting just the chases for a start, before we can start dealing with the body, and later on deal with the car engine, later on with the technologies and the scientific issues, the solar panels and the other blue tech technologies that are coming into the manufacturing of the blue tech cars. Come on, Bianca, tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I am crazy that to date we cannot crush our own cocoa, crush the cocoa into powder so that we can sell. We can sell just the powder. For a start, I'm saying one generation says we're no longer selling cocoa. We are selling cocoa powder. How many industries can we create with cotton? These things we say, this is Maasai dress, Maasai dress. This is African cotton that is taken into Malaysia, taken into the Philippines, and taken into Asia, and it is being processed into pieces of cloth. We come around and say, these are African products. This is an African wear. But we own the value chain of our production.
It's a sad situation. The thing is, the leaders have developed an appetite. They've developed an appetite. How to curb that appetite that leads to the corruption is the place to start, because they're not going to let that gold mine per se go. That money that they're receiving, or the perks they're receiving thereof, by adhering to what the West wants, I don't know.
Yeah, this is.
And Parade says here, African leaders are slept on the knees of the Western world, and they won't wake up now. Yeah, because we can sit here and talk about it, talk about our frustrations, and a lot of people have done it. They've talked about their frustrations, but can they convert that frustration into action is the question. And I don't like Africa should have enough security or enough job opportunities that we can run 24-hour economies.
If I had power, Bianca, if I had power, Lord help me. On the next Africa Union meeting of African leaders in Ethiopia, I would actually put an army vehicle around the Africa Union, collect all those leaders, all of them, put them in one big fish net, tie up a big rock next to that net, drive to the sea, either Atlantic or Indian Ocean, and dump all of them there as food for the sharks. Because it is true that the African leader has never demonstrated the love for his people, the welfare of his nature and vegetation, and the passion to convert this talk into a practical realization. Guinea-Conakry, Congo, some of the richest countries on the face of the earth. Yet the people in those environments are still languishing in poverty, yet we claim that we have African leaders. So in the words of Lumumba, my honorable Kenyan friend, if there's a problem that Africa is facing, it's a bankruptcy and a deficiency of organic, indigenous African leadership that respects the continent as a home and desires to manipulate, manage, harness, beneficiate the land and the resources of the continent, and consider the people of the continent as the first beneficiaries of their own resources. If the African leader can consider himself as a trustee, not as a beneficiary. Right now, our leaders are beneficiaries of the system, the colonial system. We hardly have leaders who are trustees, custodians. So yes, your question is true. Can Africa lead and govern itself under the present academic, colonial, Western benchmarking of leadership in cahoots, in agreements with Western civilization? It will be difficult to pinpoint leaders who are actually baptized in the poverty, who can hear the cries and the pains of their own people. Most of our leaders neither have the people as an agenda. You hear them talking in governments. When they talk about us, guess what they call us, Bianca? They call us the poor. They call us the indigent.
Civilized.
They call us civilized. They call us the common people. They call us the unbankable.
Backwards.
We are, to be frank with you, Bianca, the common people are a nuisance to the African leader. He does not know what to do with the poor people because the agenda, they look at us, we are the working class. Question, who are we working for? Question, you as the leader, who are you to us? Question, who are you to them? Last question, now that you are in power, what is it that we as the people on the ground stand to benefit? And the last question, what is in it for them who are managing you to manage us?
And until those leaders, like I know my country, I can't speak for a lot of other countries. I can speak on behalf of Kenya because they have the, that's what I'm conversant with. If our own leaders can't even trust their own health system, even when they sneeze, they cross the border to get health care. They should be held accountable by receiving medical care and see how poor our medical system is, because that's what they do. They fly their kids. Their kids are flying in helicopters around the world or being flown to school in helicopters. They're not in the broken down school systems that they have. Their children are nowhere there.
How do you know that a headmaster is a criminal? How do you know that a headmaster is a criminal? Is when he is managing a school and he can't trust his children to come and study and learn in the school where he is the headmaster. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
The best schools in the world, in Africa, for example, the best schools, the children of the administrators of those schools are not in those schools, as you are rightfully putting it. They're on holiday in Dubai, smoking drugs in China. They're in Europe, living in splash apartments with bodyguards at Pennsylvania University, New York University, eating and enjoying the benefits because the father is the president of an African state. As you rightfully say, when they get sick, where do they fly to? Now you fly to get medical treatment in Malaysia. You fly to get medical treatment in France. You're going to spend about $3 to $5 million to go for treatment in a foreign country. Are you telling me that if we give you $5 million and you say the dialysis machine that you need for your liver, that machine costs less than $150,000? So why not go to China or go to Europe and buy the dialysis machine and bring it to a local hospital in Baragwanath or in Pararenyatwa so that you can actually go to your local hospital, and not only you, by the way, but other fellow Africans who are also suffering with the same disease can access medical treatment at the doorsteps of their own civilization. What is the glory of an African leader flying to New York to go and get a dialysis? A dialysis is less than 200,000, but you are prepared to spend 5 million.
Imagine. And welcome, Shaka. In my country, it's so pathetic, the medical system, that first of all, before they even attend to you, you must have the money or you'll be left to die. That's the first thing. Second thing, can you imagine being sent to go and buy the stitches and the scissors and go buy that stuff to take to the hospital to be treated? I mean, it's our country is like it went down the gutter a long time ago. Welcome, Shaka. You have a thought.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my sister. I see my man there, Mr. Joshua Maponga. Thank you very much, sir, for your insights. You know, I always listen to you, liberating the Black nation, and I feel like this is what we need right now. And you know, I'm very much blessed to living in the time where you are in, and there's nothing much to say, but I just want to say that keep on liberating the people, keep on opening the eyes of the people, because there's a lot that is happening, even though we are young, but we can still see whatever that is happening, and we need a serious liberation. So from my own point of view, I stay in South Africa, and there's a lot that is happening. We can see the kind of leaders that we have, yet we turn a blind eye, and we don't actually, when it comes to vote, we are not decisive. Like as Mr. Joshua Maponga was saying, we are not decisive. We are supposed to be the one who go there and decide what to do, who go there and make sure that whatever government that we are going to put inside are the people that we trust, because most of the people, we know that they've been captured by the European, whatever that is happening. So this is something that we as young people growing up, we need this kind of education. We need to know where we come from. We need to know what is it that we have to do in the future. That's just my thought.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, we have to stand up and talk about it and follow up with action. Talking is good. We can talk all day until we're blue in the face. But what are we going to do after that? And I'm glad, like Nigeria stood up. Like if you watched NSARS now, where they were against police brutality, they did it. And if they can do that, then what more can we do they shut down a corrupt police system? So why can't we do the same thing with the corrupt leaders? Yeah.
I want to pass a comment to Mlaudzi before he disappears from the site here. The amount of vulnerability of the poor is appalling. That you can actually buy your future with a T-shirt.
Amen.
A T-shirt with a face on it, and
yes,
that is enough to sign off your future and a passport of poverty.
Yes.
By putting another criminal into power. And
that's
until I want to say this loud and clear, Blauzi, thank you for joining us. I want to say this loud and clear. Until the African young person understands that the present leadership that we have does not have a clue, an academic, sorry for the language, an academic perception to fully comprehend the colonial system and machinery, how it is working in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. So that by the end of your term in office, you can say the amount of damage that I have caused to the African children is valued at X. As Bianca was rightfully putting it, why would an African leader, is it Bianca or Ralph? I can't remember. Why would an African leader have a home outside Africa so that when he retires,
it was Ralph,
be planning to run away from his own land, from his own people? Because the truth is, when you are done with your term, you cannot walk on the streets free. to the amount of destruction you will have caused on your own African people. And I want to challenge you as young people. This whole fake Pan-Africanism that is filling the marketplace right now. Many young people of your caliber who come around and say, I'm a Pan-Africanist, and we shout slogans of Sankara, shout slogans of Lumumba, shout Muammar Gaddafi, we shout slogans of Kwame Nkrumah and Marcus Garvey and etc. But are you aware that after that entire conversation, the people that we are supporting are not intending to change the system?
Wow.
Their intention is actually to get into the system and continue managing the same system for the colonial system. This might be easier tomorrow morning, but I'll say it right here and say it loud and clear. That's what made me lose faith in organizations, for example, such as EFF. Because I have said this to EFF, and I'll say it again. Are you intending to get in power to change the system? Or you intend to get in power to become the new ANC? Because the same Roman and Dutch law says we are being managed by the European. You want to walk back into government following that British stick, that messy stick that you put in your government, in your present parliament in South Africa, that big, beautiful golden stick that is sitting in front of you, which simply states that you are a colony of the British government and you subjecting yourself to the Roman Dutch law. I want to recommend to the Romans, who are the British, and the Italians, and the Spanish, and the Dutch, who are the Belgians, and the Dutch people, that if we are Roman and Dutch, Mlaudzi,
yes,
why don't you give us the Roman and Dutch passports?
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
And
That's
the way
true,
we
Mr.
are,
Maponga.
and the way we are very lenient, we are lenient on them when it comes to immigration issues. Why can't we be as harsh as they are harsh to us? They're very harsh when it comes to immigration, and we're very lenient in issuing their visas or no visas thereof, and they stay years and years with expired passports, expired immigration status. A lot of them who have committed crimes are sitting there, like for us in the coast. Why can't we reciprocate the same harshness they give us? Let's reciprocate the same harshness.
I've been talking from 8 in the morning, 9, 10 in the morning.
Yeah, we need to wrap up. I need to go.
I need to wrap up. So maybe I need to punch some few holes for solutions. I see Miss Global Citizen is asking a very critical question as to what is the way forward. The way forward for me is indigenous African knowledge systems that we need to start developing. And I'm not saying so as a cosmetic statement. I'm saying so literally so, that we need indigenous governance systems. We need indigenous medical systems. We need indigenous educational systems. We need indigenous banking systems. We need ownership of the manufacturing value chain of the entire system. I don't need this small little stupid British statement that says half a loaf is better than nothing. I don't need half a loaf when I actually own the whole loaf. The reconstruction, the deconstruction of governance, politics, medicine, education, commerce, pharmaceuticals, fashion, entertainment, culture, needs to be the agenda that we can say we are going to take power. We're going to run the education system. Question: whose books are you using for the new education system? We're going to graduate bankers and economics, e-commerce, and etc. Whose banks are they going to be running? We have graduated so many lawyers. Whose law are they managing? We have produced many agricultural experts. Whose plants are they planting? Are these organic plants or GMO plants? We have graduated so many pharmaceutical people. Whose medicines are they distributing? We have so many doctors that we have produced which prescriptions and medical systems. We have so many gynecologists, which gynecological method, so many midwives. What methods are we using to deliver our own children? This for me breaks down. We have so many in entertainment. Whose entertainment are we managing? You cannot tell me that our kids right now are busy sagging their trousers, putting caps on the sides because they want to look like Ross. They want to look like Beyonce. They want to look like Jay-Z and etc. Are we saying in Africa that these have become the role model, and media is pumping this as our role models? If we are talking about decolonization, we decolonize. Are you aware tonight, Bianca? When you look, when you look at your plate of food tonight, that even your food is colonized.
That's true. I'm very much aware.
True. And Masha says here, reject everything Western. Reject everything Western, I think is summing up.
I want to be polite. I want to be polite to Masha. We cannot reject what is Western. It means giving ourselves a death warrant from the time we make the decision to the time we're able to make decisions. Right now, to reject everything means a death sentence on us. We neither have the land, we neither have the seeds, we neither have the industry, we neither have the universities, we neither have the hospitals, we neither have the medicine. For crying out loud, in South Africa here, even the mhlonyana, the herb for treating corona and what that we've been using for all these ages. The government just produced the gazette right now that harvesting mhlonyana is illegal. We will die. We will die, Michelle. We will die, Michelle. We cannot reject Western civilization. We are right now on a Western platform, using their internet and etc. There's nothing wrong with it. But we need our own satellite dishes. We need our own Afri-books rather than Facebook. We need our own servers where we can put our own content. We need our own African cosmetic centers where our women can we want to look beautiful. Please don't miss me up. We want to look beautiful, but we want to own the products that we are using. We want to own the food that we are eating. We want to own the clothes we are putting on. We want to own the rings that are on our hands. We want to own the cars that we are driving. We want to own the banks where we are putting our money into. We want to own the politicians who are making the policy. We want to own our judicial system. We want to own it because we have never taken an opportunity to own anything that is European, anything that is Western. We have never gone to London and named the river Thames and called it Follows. Why do you come here and call it Victoria Falls when it's Mosia Tunya here? So I'm not mixing my words. We cannot throw away the system. We want to start telling blacks to begin to put our money together with each other and run a parallel system. And since we are 90% of the people, if as Africans, we can begin to invest our money into our own industries, we can begin to own the value chain, the means of consumption, so that we consume what we own and we own what we consume.
Nice there, nice closing there. And Miss Global says to reject everything Western is not currently feasible because we in Africa are more Western than the West. And the sad thing about it, Miss Global, I live here in North America. The sad thing about it is it's become, and that's why I showed that clip, it's become a morally degenerate society. We're plundering down, down, down. There's nothing left. It gets worse and worse. And it's very dangerous for Africans to be picking up what they think is the good thing, which it's not, because a lot of people are now waking up to reject their own culture. They're starting to reject some of the things of their own culture. But it's very sad that Africans are now picking it up and thinking it's cool and it's good. For me, by the way, Corona was the best thing to happen. You know why? It curbed Hollywood and the rappers and the musicians and that culture base, which was telling the young people what to do or how to act. It kind of curbed it because they're no longer in the spotlight. They can't be. So I think this is it's open space now for us to teach people the correct way. But if Africans can own their Africanness, their own things, and be proud of them and not sell them out. It's sad when I go to Whole Foods Market and I see things. I'll take a picture next time. I'll show it here. I see toys made in Kenya and baskets being sold for $30-40. Things that we could be selling on our own, and we have you just see a little tag down there, made in Kenya, a little tag. I've gone to Walmart and seen t-shirts being sold. Why can't those things be left in our country, or we export them higher, and we're not making any money? Nobody hardly notices they were made in Kenya unless you really look. And Kenya is not doing well at all. But go to Starbucks and you'll see our tea there being sold at $8-10 a cup. African
No,
tea.
Mr. Maponga, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask something. I understand that we have been captured for so long, and I don't know if also they have already even captured our thinking, because when I look at so many things that we do, especially in South Africa, you find that in America, they've got an American Got Talent, they've got idols, and in South Africa, we take the very same concept and we bring it to South Africa. What does that say about us? Is it that we cannot think, or we are not creative enough to produce our own, our own shows, or we are not creative enough to be able to write down something that is more creative that we can do without copying something that has been done in the US, in the UK? This is something that I always think about. Is it that we cannot think? We've been captured even the thinking that we cannot do things on our own self. We are being told what to think. We cannot think out for ourselves.
I will say it very simply. 2 comments I'll give to you. Number 1, it is the syndrome of the dominant culture that runs the show. The one who has the money determines what we must see and what we must watch. Number 2, it's a weakness of African business millionaires and financiers. When they have money, they buy Lamborghinis, they go to Centon, and overnight they can swipe 860,000 on a bottle of Moet and 19 and 42-year-old gins and wines. And these rich people, including our politicians, who, by the way, all of them are millionaires. To date, South Africa, there's not all those millionaires who have come together to build one school.
Never.
They will not build a hospital. They will not put money and buy a media house. Where with passion, people like Mutsepe can bring a team from Spain and spend 200 million on a weekend to watch 22 healthy men chasing a skin of a dead ox, being watched by 100,000 people who are unhealthy, who badly need exercise. But you cannot take 200 million and say, with 200 million, let's develop African entertainment. We have Nollywood, we have Hollywood, we have Bollywood. Where is Jollywood?
Amen.
I'm trying to come to your concept, which can be a center of harvesting indigenous talent, indigenous knowledge, convert it into entertainment. And because it is African, and you have the government in your hands, SABC, and you are an African company that is producing African content, you can walk up to your government, which you are a member of, by the way, and say, okay, from our side, we can now supply SABC with 30% content for a start, even 10% for a start. We'll supply you with 30% content for music and etc. We have enough. We can supply you with 50-60%. And slowly we begin to grow into those markets. Tell me that you can walk up to Ukraine and you can walk up to Germany and you'll hear Black Mambazo playing on their stations. Tell me that you can walk up to China and hear Mafiki Zolo.
Never.
Playing in the Chinese broadcast. Why? Because they are selfish.
They don't value our content.
Developing, investing their own local content. I checked some Chinese channels. All they do there, Chinese entertainment, gymnastics. So their own thing. And they, remember, when you do these things, you get paid for them. So the local artists are able to accumulate a sizable amount of money and contributing meaningfully to the entertainment industry, specifically on the entertainment. It's twofold. The multinational companies that have an extra 3 million, 10 million, 16 million to splash, they are not splashing on the migration of the Africans from Congo to South Africa. Don't invest in who is Mlaudzi. How do the Mlaudzis end up in South Africa? It's not important. It does not pay the bills. It does not serve their interest. But tell me that they can sponsor a Jola 99. That shows that the black is a failure. Tell me that they will not sponsor a movie or a small little documentary that shows Africans as witchcraft, busy beating bones, killing each other. Tell me one movie that will show you the positiveness of the African on the entertainment industry so that the black child can also be able to come up and say, I want to be like that boy. I won't mention the name, but for sake of a failure of a better example, a boy was found in Polamburo, down up there in Petersburg. When you grow up a boy, what do you want to be when you grow up? He says, I want to become Somisi. Not in a bad way, but that's what he has come to see as a picture of Somisi. With all due respect, he has made it. He has developed a profile. He has succeeded. But are we saying that these are the only role models that we have in the industry? To such an extent that you can have 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 shows centered around one person. I'm not saying that he's failing. He's doing an excellent job. But in the light of developing the societal platform, where is the money of Mzee Khumalo? Where is the money of Mutsepe? Where is the money of the millionaires in South Africa as far as entertainment is concerned? So that at the end of the day, the diet we are eating on our silver screen is actually fully sponsored by African black money. No, the African does not want that. He wants a Lamborghini, he wants a Bugatti, a house in Stellenbosch, a wine field, and a penthouse in Da Vinci in Sandton. And then you drive your car over the weekend to Soweto, and then you are not prepared to pay more than 100 rand to get your car washed. You would rather pay 40, 60 rand. The other 40 rand, you buy Mazondo cow hooves. And on the Thursday night, you can splash 15,000 in Sandton. And that's black empowerment. Right?
You know, there's one thing that I've been asking, especially with whatever that has been happening in South Africa. Right now, we know that there's 500 billion that is missing, that we don't know where it went. 500 billion worth of money that is missing. And we looked at whatever that was happening, the events that was unfolding. You find out the very same current government went on and dig some holes, some graves for people. So I was just trying to ask, is that kind of a mentality? How can you dig holes for people who are not yet dead? And, you know, that kind of you can just imagine 1 million graves that were dug by the current government.
1.3, please. 1.3, just for point of correction.
Yes, yes. 1.3 million graves that were dug by the government for people who are not yet even dead. What does that say about the current government? And as South Africa, where are we going? Why do we still believe in the very same government who is doing such kind of these horrible events that are unfolding in our eyes, and there's nothing that we can do about it? So I just wanted an advice. What is it that we as young people who are in the universities, who are busy campaigning, what is it that we can do to change whatever that is happening?
Number one, mobilize yourselves. Number two, come together. Educate each other. Withdraw your support for illegitimate structures. Start spending your money on each other. When you see someone selling magbinya, selling pap on the streets and etc., invest in small businesses. This is the critical one. When you graduate Mlaudzi with your degree in marketing,
yes,
don't apply for a job. Walk from Vets to Nord to MTN. Do a proper survey to look at indigenous people selling things on the streets. Then take your marketing knowledge, genius as you are, walk up to the flea market, all those African products that are there. Be the first one, Mlaudzi, to package the Rosebank flea market into a virtual market like Amazon.
Yes.
Where you can connect your people, because you know, you are educated, you have the knowledge of how to market this.
Yes.
Then you post the things to the people and empower your people. There is no better solution until we understand that our money, this is a horrible statement, Bianca, but it is true. Colonization depends on the colonized to support the colonial system. We pay for our poverty by constantly taking our money and giving it back to the same system that is harassing us. Right now, I give you $10,000 in your hands, Mlaudzi.
Yes.
I don't need to waste my time. By Wednesday, you'll have taken all that money, given it to Vodacom, given it to Louis Vuitton, given it to Pizza this, given it to Gucci, given it to Rolex, and given it to BMW.
That's true.
You don't even think of going to buy a farm, by the way, or investing that money in a chicken farm so that you can actually produce, and then the profit of that, you can buy yourself the Louis Vuitton that you need. Because to the African mind, money is equal to expenses. Once you have money in your hands right now, it's not how can I make this money grow, it's how can I spend it. Because the education system has taught you to spend, not to invest. So it goes back again to the educational infrastructure, that the software that you are using will always mess up your hardware. My famous statement as I'm closing down, when the face is beautiful, like Bianca's face, when the face is beautiful and the software is not working, the hardware between your legs will always suffer.
That's true.
And in a national conversation, when the face of a country is beautiful, but the software we are using is not working, the resources in our land will always suffer. At the end of the day, our weakness is the Trojan horse in the minds of the African child that has not known the value of its beauty. You've not known the value of their beauty. And the software we are using to manage our beauty is corrupted software. At the end of the day, both the resources between our legs and the resources underneath our feet will constantly be in the hands of the colonizer. This is a reckless statement, but I say it selectively. Oish, pardon me. Please put a disclaimer.
You're okay.
Put a disclaimer.
No,
close.
this is anything goes.
A vagina of a drunk woman does not belong to her.
That's true.
True.
I'm saying that philosophically. That the reproduction of a drunk state does not belong to the owners. The intoxication of the political system on the African child means that they are not in control of their reproduction. They're not in control of their resources. I'm saying so in a blunt way so that the message can get home. By no means am I promoting violence against women, etc. I hope people are mature enough to hear me from the platform from where I'm saying this. That if a country is intoxicated and drunk with fake democracy, our resources don't belong to us. But to the sober.
Yeah,
is the African parliament sober? Is the African businessman sober? Is the African churchman sober? Is the African population sober? And in the midst of our drunkenness, what has happened to our reproduction? And I'm using the word reproduction selectively so. So our private resources are no longer in our hands because of the intoxication and the drugs of colonial education, colonial medication, colonial entertainment that intoxicates our minds to an extent that when you get educated, you're actually looking for a passport to run away from your own uncivilized people because you want to become like the colonizer yourself. By the time you become the politician and you become a leader, the question is, how do you become a better colonizer? Rather than how do you become a developer of your own people? That's why you're going to learn how to write a CV on your 4th year of doing commerce, not how to open up a company.
Well, this has been an awesome conversation and many more to come. And hopefully we get to have some women come here and tell us about the experiences. I like Marsha Mitchell and Miss Global Citizen. Hopefully one day they'll come here and give us some insight. I liked when Marsha said black dolls in her household. She loves the black doll mentality and show their children that not only white is the way to go, even with dolls or even creations of things.
I even want to stretch that further. Don't buy dolls. Buy them chickens. Buy them goats. Buy them sheep. Teach them how to work with things that generate money. Buy them dogs, male and female. And when those dogs reproduce, teach them how to sell puppies and make money. So that even the dog you have in your house must pay rent. Because it will reproduce the puppies that create the food for it to eat in your own house. Introduce your children to the value of creating wealth. Yes, I know dolls are good, but hey, listen to me. It's a new concept altogether. Teach children wealth creation, not fantasies. Not fantasies of the midget and not fantasies of the dwarfs, not fantasies of Casper and the Friendly Ghosts. No. And our women must stop looking for flowers from men. If I buy a bouquet of flowers, Bianca, are you going to eat the flowers for dinner?
But these are all things that have been taught by the system. We'll call it the system. It's been engraved in our minds that that's the right way to go. That's the right way to think. And Miss Global Citizen pointed it out, where she said she tried to Google, even if you go to YouTube, the things that are shown when you Google Black people or Africans, it's bleaching, fake body parts, fake hair, fake nails, and stuff like that. But one thing people need to appreciate is, until we build our own systems, like you said, Google and YouTube, they push their own agenda. Until you all appreciate that, then we'll start to have a deep, deep, meaningful interaction. Know this, YouTube, and let me tell you one thing, there's a beef sector. It's called the beef sector on YouTube. Just Google it up and see. Google is trending. I mean, YouTube trends Black people from drama. That's all. You're not going to see, when you go to the white sector, and I'm going to say that, I'm just being honest, when you go to the white sector, you find women being at home with their children, teaching children school. Those are the videos that will pop up. Go try and see Black people. All you see is drama, who's fighting who, the Chicago people, Chirac as they call it, the rapping, nothing positive, nothing at all. And it's Google and YouTube are pushing that agenda. And if no one realizes that and create their own platform, Facebook does the same thing.
I also want to, just in closing, I also want to share something very, very important. I mean, this has been a gruesome session with you, but maybe let's end on a positive note. That as Africans, particularly here on mainland, let's take our phones. Let's take our phones when we walk around Africa. Take the beautiful pictures of flowers.
Beautiful pictures.
Take the pictures of beautiful mountains. Take pictures of beautiful, capture good stories, and let's begin to share, market, and brand our own continent in a positive way. There are beautiful things happening on the continent that no one knows about, and our greatest enemy of the destruction of Africans are fellow Africans. Would rather pick up stories of taxi wars, pick up stories of downtown poverty, pick up stories downside of Africa. And by branding our own homestead in that fashion, we must know we are perpetuating the colonial language that says Africa is uncivilized, Africa is barbaric. You see what happens to Africa when you give them money. See what they do. All we see, the man is living in a shack, a tin house, but he's paying a shoe which will cost him 4 times his salary. He has put it on labor.
Oh.
He has not even have a house. So we need to, and for me, in my old age now, as I'm seeing this, and I used to fight white people in politics. This is a joke, by the way. I used to fight white people in politics, fighting against whites and etc. until these white people came on my chin, and I discovered that the whites are kicking out the blacks, and I'm becoming white every day. But that's on a lighter note. But we needed to start a conversation that says, how do we positively brand ourselves? And this other this young man from North Africa who is in the US there, a rapper who started up some investments and etc. And he mentioned something very important about how Africans were branding ourselves. And I want to recommend, as we are closing, that this is our home. This is our home. If right now war should break up in Africa, and in South Africa in particular, the airport will be full of Europeans who are flying to Australia, flying to New Zealand, flying to London, flying to Germany, and flying back to America. Because they have an option. They have a home where they can fly to. They have friends. If they don't have friends, they have enough investments. that can help them wrap up your business, close it down, pour concrete in your office, take up your 25, 60 million, jump on the next flight, and go and retire in France. We don't have those options.
We don't have that
on the ground. We are at home here. We were born here. We are going to die here. And if there is anything we can do, is to make home best. And in closing, last one, I want to condemn with the highest language possible the irresponsible group of Afrikaners who are now circulating videos on social media threatening South Africa with war. We don't want war, because war will not destroy Britain. War will not destroy Germany. War will not destroy Stockholm and Frankfurt and New York. It is us who are going to remain with landmines on our land. It is us who are going to remain with amputated hands and crippled children. It is us who are going to remain with 4 to 5 years of no education in our systems. Every time an African child is angry, he bans the street that is in front of his house. He bans the clinic where his mother is receiving diabetes tablets. He bans the school where his child is learning. But the white schools in the eastern suburbs, the white clinics in Morningside, white roads in Rosebank and in Cape Town remain working just well. Our frustration must not be on ourselves. If we want to pitch the war, identify the enemy. The best war we can fight is not in swords and in spears, as Shaka could have done in the past. The war is now in the minds. No one forces you to spend your money in McDonald's. No one. No one forces you to spend your money in Kentucky and Chicken Licken. No one. No one forces you to go to Rosebank and come back poor. Choice is in our hands. Let us use the economic power that we have. Create our own banks, create our own schools, do our researches in our own local medicines, and allow these systems to run parallel to the present system until our parallel system has enough muscles to kill the other ones. So here's the proverb for you, Bianca.
Yes.
The dog that you always feed will get stronger than the dog you are refusing food to. Right now, the African is feeding the white dog. Let us starve white insurances, white pharmaceuticals, white hospitals, white churches, white politics, white businesses, white foods, white perishables. Convert that money. Let's put it in each other's hands. With the correct software, we can remap the glory of the African nation. I thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. And I'll get you guys back again so we can continue these discussions, at least on a more... and I'll request you, gentlemen, and then we'll continue these discussions. And I think I need some of the ladies who I saw here today, so we can... I think we need to brand ourselves. We need to rebrand ourselves as Africans and own ourselves, because most of the time, here in America, what I see is it's like no one stops at the airport. They just fly straight to the poverty-stricken place. That's all. I don't know where these people are passing because I don't see the beautiful parts of Africa and they're very selective, and they do that for a reason. So, Marsha, yes, I will reach out. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And everybody, thank you so much. But there's one important thing that I would like for you all to do before I sign out. Here in my state where I live, in my neighborhood, a South African lady by the name of Gloria Bambo was found hanging in a garage. She had a white roommate. You all may have probably not heard this story. So I want you to go on Twitter and hashtag Justice for Gloria Bambo. You're going to also find the change.org petition, because what happened is, I don't have time to go into the story, but we'll go into it next time when we're together. She was found hanging, but they ruled it as a suicide. The roommate found her, claims that he found her 3 days later in a house that they share, hanging in the garage. So go look at that story and please sign the petition, because we're trying to get justice for her. So Gloria Bambo is her name. Please go on Twitter, hashtag that. You'll find the link for change.org as I'm signing out here. And the last few comments here, thank you so much for your time. From now on, I'll practice to circulate my 8 times amongst Blacks before it leaves me. Thank you. Marsha says, okay, I heard about her. She's one of the many. Yes, Marsha. So we'll start one person at a time. So share and tell everybody in your circle to sign that petition. And as I sign off here, Miss Global, yes, I'm in Texas, one of the most racist states. Yes, ma'am, I am. Yes, and we can discuss all these things. That's why I like, and I'm African. I've been here for 20 years. But I like to exchange ideas because I'm going to go back home, and we can exchange ideas and see how we can better ourselves as Africans and as Black people as a whole. So good night, good morning, and good afternoon from wherever you all are. And visit my friend, Mr. Black, who was here, and his wife. They have a channel called Country Living with Salad Master. Please go head over there and subscribe to that channel and get healthy cooking tips where we cook African food. So you can learn some recipes on healthy living as Africans and authentic dishes there. Go ahead and subscribe and enjoy the food there as well. So we will keep you posted when we'll be back. We'll hope this will be a weekly thing. And Tom Willows, I hope that you find your Xbox and that your wife brings your kids back. All right. Good evening, and thank you to all. Thank you, Miss Mitchell, and everybody else who was here. Good night, and let's rebrand ourselves.
Thank you very much.
And restore Africa's glory. Good night,
Amen.
Good evening, good afternoon, Paul.
Shukran.